Hi, welcome to the first lecture on persuasive speaking. So our textbook's definition of persuasion is the symbolic process in which a communicator creates an argument in an attempt to convince others to change their attitudes or behaviors in an atmosphere of free choice. Persuasion is a process, and putting together your speech will be an opportunity to work through that process over a length of time. However, this process typically happens very quickly in everyday life. Think about how many times this week you have tried to be persuasive. Many of you are parents and have probably had to execute a persuasion tactic today or every single day. And I'm sure a few of you have had a few different types of persuasion tactics used against you. You may have had to discuss something with an instructor or chat with someone about voting in the past week. I would bet there was a little persuasion thrown into there. When you're thinking about this unit and your speeches, think about what works and what doesn't work. Not just things that have worked for you, but think about the things that have worked with you. We will explore persuasion tactics and arguments a bit more in the next lecture, but I wanted to get you thinking about these types of things. For this speech, I will be allowing you to select your own topic. I will be asking that you submit it to me beforehand. You can find more specific information in Cobra. I hope that you are thoughtful when selecting a topic. I've already spoken with many of you about ways you could transform your informative speech topic into a persuasive topic, and that's completely fine. But if you want to do something a little different, the time to start thinking is right now. I always like to remind students that when you are trying to persuade someone, you are targeting someone else's values, attitudes, or beliefs. Which one do you think is the easiest to change? Typically, it's attitude, then values, and then beliefs. Attitudes are usually the easiest to change, as we don't hold our attitudes on something as strongly as we hold onto our values, which usually dives into a person's ethics or what they believe is good or bad, or your beliefs, which people can hold even if you don't think that something actually exists or have any proof of it, somebody can still hold on to a belief. I've put together a list of topics that I want students to stay away from, and that you can find in the Persuasion Speech Information document. The first reason that I've put these topics together is because they are just completely overdone, and the second is because they are huge. There's no way to do those topics justice and have any impact on someone in the classroom's values or beliefs. I do want you to be thinking about your audience, maybe more than you ever have with this particular speech. You want them to understand the issue as deeply as you do. You also want to make sure you stay away from harming or offending someone. So keep that in mind as you select your topic and move forward. All speech books discuss the three types of claims you could put forth when determining your persuasive argument. Think of your claim as your thesis statement. The first type of claim that I'm going to talk about is making a factual claim. So when you make a claim of fact, you are addressing a controversial question about what, when, where, why, or how something happened or will happen. So you are going to be concerned with what is true or what is not true, what does or does not exist, or what did or did not happen. Some examples of a factual claim could be Elvis died of a drug overdose, which is something that some people do not believe is true. Social Security will be depleted as greater numbers of baby boomers retire, or secondhand smoke negatively impacts the health of non-smokers. So these are all factual claims. These are all claims that are based in facts, and there is factual evidence to support them. To build an argument around a factual claim, you will want to make sure that you define your terms, that you provide background and history, that you have high quality evidence, and it seems in the research on this type of claim that statistics tend to sway audiences in your general direction, so that is something to keep in mind. That you are using logical appeals, and that is something that we will discuss more in the next lecture, is logical appeals or logos. That you are competent, and that you are respectful of your audience. And then the three different types of ways that you could organize a speech, or the three most common types of way that you see with a factual claim, is topical, spatial, or chronological. So 3 different types of outlines that you should understand or be used to seeing at this point, since you have used these for your last 2 speeches. So the second type of claim you could make would be a value claim. A value claim is going to be something, you're going to be putting together an argument about something that is right versus wrong, moral or immoral, or good or bad. So you're going to look beyond the facts and you are going to be making a judgment. So some examples of these might be product testing on animals is inhumane, protecting the environment is more important than corporate growth, or that national security is more important than the freedom of speech. The best way to organize a value claim is using the topical speech outline. So that is something to keep in mind. Again, you don't have to use this, but just from what I've seen and from what has been recommended, and as I've taught this class and read from books about this topic, that seems to be a very common way to organize your speech. I also apologize if you can hear my dog in the background. She's being particularly annoying today. And then the research on value claims, the way that you would want to put together your argument to prove your point, these things tend to be the most helpful. So defining your terms. And what we mean by defining your terms is if you're going to introduce a topic like national security, you're going to want to explain to your audience, even if it's just a sentence, what is that? What do you mean by national security? So if you're going to be using, jargon, if you're going to be talking about, maybe you're going to be talking about animal testing and how it's inhumane, so there may be some medical terms in there, you're going to want to make sure that you explain all of those things to your audience. You should expect that your audience knows what a cat is, but you should not expect that they understand any jargon or lingo specific to your topic. You will want to use, using emotional appeals seems to be something that audiences relate to when you are putting together a value claim. And that's, again, something we'll talk about in the next lecture, which would be pathos. So emotional appeals seem to work. Anecdotal evidence is also something that audiences tend to tune into. So finding anecdotal evidence for your value claim. And then credible evidence. For this one in particular, it's very important that your sources are credible and that you are saying your sources within your speech, which you need to be doing for all of them. But this particular type of claim, again, audiences want to know where your sources came from. So the third type of claim is the policy claim. Arguably the most challenging, but it's also the most effective of the types of claims you could make, because you aren't just saying there is a problem, but you're also providing a solution to that problem. So a policy claim is saying what should be done, what kind of law should be changed, or what policy should be followed. So some examples of a policy claim would be Parkland Community College should offer free tuition to all Illinois students, or all college students should be required to take an art class, or this one I had a student do, it was kind of fun, the U.S. government should eliminate the penny. So these are all policy claims. To build an argument around a policy claim, you want to, again, this is the third time you've seen it, define your terms. So that's probably pretty important. You also need to prove that a problem exists. You can't have a policy claim that doesn't show your audience that there's a problem in place already. So you want to make sure that you show that this is problematic and needs to change. You also want to show that there is a barrier to solving this problem and that you have a solution. You want to address the stock issues, and you want to have a call to action. So, and you'll see this in the outline patterns that I'm going to go over, but you want to encourage your audience to do something within your speech to spur some type of action. Organizing a policy claim is best with a few new types of organizational patterns. And I'm going to tell you right now that this is the way that, so I used a different book to teach this class for a couple of years. And these, I believe problem solution, problem cause solution are slightly different in the Jaffe textbook that Parkland has you have, but the concepts are the same, and I will not be testing you on these. But so just bear with me if you're like, oh, I think the book called it something else. Exact same types of outlines, exact same types of way to organize your speech. But the best way for a policy claim to organize your speech is going to be with a problem solution outline, a problem cause solution outline, or with Monroe's motivated sequence, which is a very fancy title. So problem solution is about as simple as it sounds. You will have two main points. One will outline the problem, and the other main point will provide a solution, as outlined in the example here. Problem cause solution adds a layer or a main point into your argument. Now you will not only show that there is a problem, but outline the causes and provide solutions. I usually push students in this direction if they are looking between this or just problem solution, because it gives the audience a more in-depth analysis and understanding of the issue. The third way to organize a policy claim is with Monroe's motivated sequence, which is a fancy title for a very fancy organizational pattern. This approach probably looks very different than anything you've seen before, but don't let it intimidate you too much. It includes all of the things we've already been talking about, and it is considered the most effective way to organize any type of persuasive argument. This pattern is audience-centric and it is action-heavy. The first part, which is called attention, happens in your introduction just as usual, so you want to capture the attention of your audience. The three middle parts, need, satisfaction, and visualization, occur as your main points, and the action is your conclusion. So again, you're going to want to have that call to action and tell the listeners exactly what they should do and how they can do it. I'm going to provide examples of these types of outlines on the Cobra website so you can see them, but really they're all pretty similar to what you've already been doing before for both informative and for your demonstration speech. You're going to have an attention getter, you're going to have, credibility, you're going to include relatability, you're going to have a thesis statement and transitions and previews. So don't let this scare you away. So now that we've covered a lot of ground today, let's talk about your actual persuasive speech requirements. So the first thing I just want to reiterate is that you are selecting your own topic. And I did end up adding a bullet point with what is off limits. So abortion, death penalty, universal health care, legalization of marijuana, GMOs. Can't remember if I have anything on the sheet, but make sure you check that as well. This speech, just like your others, should be 5 to 7 minutes in length. You need to have 4 to 6 in-speech citations. If you're not quite sure how to do that, please do. Always feel free to ask me how to do that, because I would be happy to go over that with you. You are going to need to include a full word outline with reference page, and that will be due at the same time as your speech. So you should be thinking about not only what your topic is going to be, but what type of claim you're going to make, and then how you want to outline your speech. So think again about all of those things that I said, go back in the video, see, okay, maybe I want to organize this way because it makes sense. Be thinking about that right now. You also will need to utilize a visual aid. You have to have a minimum of 1. It's always okay to have more. However, I always want to caution you cannot show 4 minutes of video. That is definitely not appropriate, and you will not do well in a speech because there's no way you can do a topic justice if you're showing us a ton of videos. And then I already said this before, but you're going to have an introduction just like you've had for your informative and demonstration speeches. You're going to have a conclusion, so you're going to want to summarize things at the end. You're going to want to have a call to action, or you're going to want to kind of go full circle and come back to your introduction depending on what type of claim you make and how you organize your speech. You're going to want to have transitions and signpost words just like before, so I want to hear those. First, I'm going to talk about this. Next, last, in conclusion, let's move forward, things like that, just so that everybody can, follow along with you. We know where we're going. You have a very clear beginning, middle, and end. Organizational structure, something that I just mentioned, you're going to want to have that. You're going to want to be thinking about that. And then for this one, as for all of them, but really for a persuasive speech, you really need to be focusing on powerful delivery. You need to be thinking about how you're going to have some energy in your speech. Think about the people that inspire you as public speakers, and think about how you can emulate them and use vocal variety and nonverbal gestures and pauses and vocal emphasis to really hit your points, especially with a persuasive speech. So be thinking about all of those types of things. As always, please reach out to me if you have any questions. The second lecture will be diving into building persuasive arguments. Thanks for listening.